Medieval castles, those iconic symbols of a bygone era, didn't just appear overnight. They are the result of centuries of architectural evolution and strategic necessity. They evolved gradually, born out of necessity in the aftermath of the Roman Empire's fall. As the centralized power of Rome crumbled, Europe was plunged into a period of turmoil and fragmentation. Imagine Europe in the 9th and 10th centuries, a place beset by Viking raids, warring factions, and general instability. The need for fortified structures became paramount as communities sought protection from these relentless threats. In this chaotic landscape, powerful lords needed secure bases of operation, places to protect themselves and their people. These early fortifications served not only as defensive structures but also as administrative centers. Early castles were simple structures, often little more than fortified wooden towers called motte and bailey castles. These were quick to construct and provided immediate defense. Atop a raised mound of earth, the motte stood the wooden tower, a rudimentary keep providing a vantage point for defense. The height of the motte offered a strategic advantage, allowing defenders to spot approaching enemies from afar. Enclosed within a courtyard, the bailey were storehouses, workshops, and other essential buildings. This area was vital for the day-to-day functioning of the castle, housing everything from blacksmiths to granaries. While practical, these early castles were vulnerable to fire. The wooden structures could be easily set ablaze during attacks, leading to devastating consequences. Over time, castle design evolved. The limitations of wood led to the adoption of more durable materials. Stone replaced wood as the material of choice, offering greater strength and fire resistance. This transition marked a significant advancement in castle construction. Castles grew larger, more elaborate, and increasingly formidable. The new stone fortifications could withstand sieges and provided a more permanent symbol of power. They became symbols of power and prestige, reflecting the status of their owners. These grand structures were not just military fortresses but also residences and seats of governance, embodying the authority and ambition of medieval lords. Castles were strategically located, often near rivers, mountain passes, or other crucial transportation routes. This gave their owners control over vital trade routes and the ability to levy tolls, adding an economic dimension to their military significance. Castles weren't just defensive structures, they were also offensive weapons. They served as bases from which armies could launch attacks and then retreat to safety. Imagine a medieval army marching across the countryside, encountering a well-fortified castle barring their way. Sieges could last for months, even years, draining the resources of both attacker and defender. Life within a castle's walls was a microcosm of medieval society, a world unto itself where every individual had a role to play. The castle was not just a fortress, but a bustling hub of activity, reflecting the hierarchical structure of the time. At the top were the nobles, the lords and ladies who ruled over the castle and its surrounding lands. They were the elite, living in opulence and luxury, their lives filled with grand banquets, elaborate ceremonies, and the finest clothing. They enjoyed lives of relative luxury, but their days were also filled with responsibilities. Overseeing the management of the estate, ensuring the well-being of their subjects, and maintaining their own status and power were constant concerns. Managing the estate, resolving disputes, and yes, preparing for war, were all part of a noble's duties. They had to be shrewd administrators, fair judges, and capable leaders, balancing their own interests with those of their vassals. Knights, sworn to the service of their lord, were the warriors of the castle. They were the protectors, the enforcers of the noble's will, and the defenders of the realm. They trained constantly, honing their skills in swordsmanship, horsemanship, and archery. Their lives were dedicated to the art of combat, always ready to defend their lord's honor and lands. When not engaged in warfare, knights might participate in tournaments, lavish events that combined sport, spectacle, and military training. These tournaments were not only a test of skill, but also a display of chivalry and valor. At the bottom of the social ladder were the peasants, who made up the majority of the castle's inhabitants. They were the backbone of the medieval economy, toiling day in and day out to sustain the entire community. They worked the land, tended to the animals, and performed the many tasks that kept the castle running. From dawn till dusk, their labor was unending, their efforts crucial to the survival of the castle's inhabitants. Life for a peasant was harsh, often brutally short, and always at the mercy of their lord's whims. Despite their hard work, they lived in constant uncertainty, their lives dictated by the needs and desires of those above them. Section 4, the feudal system, a hierarchy of power. The feudal system, the dominant social structure of medieval Europe, was a complex web of obligations and allegiances. At its heart was the exchange of land for military service. Kings, at the apex of the feudal pyramid, granted land, known as fiefs, to their most powerful vassals, the great lords of the realm. In return, these lords swore fealty to the king, pledging their loyalty and military support. This system of vassalage extended downward, with powerful lords granting land to lesser lords, who in turn might have their own vassals. Knights, while not typically landowners themselves, were also vassals, owing service to the lord who granted them their fiefs. Section 5. The Economics of Feudalism. Feudalism wasn't just about warfare and political power, it also shaped the economic landscape of medieval Europe. The manor, the basic economic unit of feudalism, was the lord's estate, encompassing the castle surrounding farmland and the village where the peasants lived. Peasants worked the land, paying rent to their lord in the form of crops or labor. This system, known as manorialism, provided a degree of economic stability in an often uncertain world. Trade, while not as extensive as in later centuries, did exist. Traveling merchants brought goods from distant lands, and towns, though small by modern standards, were beginning to emerge as centers of commerce. Changing the course of history forever. Section 7. The Legacy of Castles. As Europe emerged from the Middle Ages, the role of castles gradually changed. The development of gunpowder and cannons rendered them less effective militarily. Castles were transformed into grand residences, symbols of status rather than fortresses of war. Today, medieval castles stand as silent sentinels, reminders of a bygone era. They capture our imaginations, transporting us back to a time of chivalry, warfare, and feudal intrigue. Their enduring legacy lies in their architecture, their place in our collective memory, and the countless stories they whisper to us across the centuries.